next three lines. I said, well, let me get it to us.
My guy right here.
That's right.
Harold and I go there. All the way to Elk Grove.
Sure do.
That was a scary time.
May I show something?
I sit tall. I sit tall.
Yeah. I know, I was surprised. But I had to look. And then there's one. So how did everybody at home? Very. Give the green cards to Valerie's not there. Put them at Valerie's computer. Yeah, Valerie takes them.
Shake my hand. Oh my God, I didn't realize that.
He's very good at responding.
Jasmine.
Hi, how are you?
Good to be alive. How are you?
I'm straight in.
You ready?
Are you ready?
No problem. Let you go on about 11:30. Saying you don't like America.
Just slap them. And then I don't know about, there's something going on
They don't take a word, man. They
well, what the students are showing us. I know he said which means that they should have one by 6. A is 11 to 5. Because what they said, which I thought was all right. So I don't I can make Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to reconvene the public meeting of November 14th, 2017 of the Lodi Unified School District Board of Education. First off, we're going to do a roll call, and I see we have student representatives. We have Jasmine from Tokay and Marciano from McNair. All right. And board members, we have all 7 present. And if you could, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will report on actions taken in closed session. Placement of non-public school students. Bill Talpin motion, George Neely second, the board approved placement of the 2017-18 non-public school students number 3, 9, 12, 13, 20, 78, 79, and 80 by the following vote. Ayes 7, noes 0. Appointment of a senior director of budgets in the budget office. Ron Freitas motion, George Neely second, and the board approved the appointment of Angel Marin as the senior director of budgets, budget office. Effective date to be determined by the following vote. 7 ayes. Let's see here. Appointment of elementary school vice principal, Yasmin Herrera. Daryl Talkin motioned, Ron Heberty seconded, and the board approved the appointment of Jasmine as the elementary school vice principal, location to be determined, effective date to be determined by the following vote. Ayes 7, noes 0. Also, middle school vice principal, Ron Freitas motion, Daryl Talkin seconded, and the board approved the appointment of Maria Mack as middle school vice principal, location to be determined, effective date to be determined by the following vote. Ayes 7, noes 0. High school assistant principal, Daryl Talkin motioned, Gary Connexted seconded, and the board approved the appointment of Stacy Nicole as high school assistant principal, McNair High School, effective date to be determined by the following vote. Ayes 7, noes 0. And that concludes actions of closed session. All right, at this time we have a presentation by the California School Employees Association, CSEA, Chapter 77, Boss of the Year Award. Deborah, would you please come forward?
Good evening, President Heberly, members of the board, Superintendent Washer. Thank you again for allowing us to come and publicly acknowledge the 2017 CSEA Boss of the Year from Lodi Chapter 77, Carlos Villafana. Today we have the honor and privilege to publicly acknowledge Carlos Villafana as our CSEA Lodi Chapter 77 2017 Boss of the Year. As many of you may not be aware, Carlos began his career here in Lodi Unified as a classified employee. From 94 through 98, Carlos was a paraeducator and a campus supervisor security at Lodi High. Many of his students still call him the narc. Carlos was working as a classified employee while pursuing his college education. And in 1998, when he was ready to begin his teaching career, he left us for Manteca. Oh my. Luckily for us, we were able to steal him away in 2003, and he's remained with Lodi Unified since. Carlos began his long and distinguished certificated career in Lodi Unified as a teacher at Lodi Middle School. And after a few years at Lodi Middle, Carlos was chosen as an elementary vice principal to serve at Washington Elementary School. And after a few years as an elementary VP, he became the principal at Victor Elementary and Tokay Colony Elementary. And I remember those years when Carlos was going between two school sites. Somehow Carlos always had time to make every student and employee feel that he was absolutely available for them. In 2010, Carlos began his current assignment as principal of Lawrence Elementary School, and this is where we hear of him making a lasting impact. The letters that we received for nomination of Carlos Villafana as our CSEA Boss of the Year were numerous. Every single letter talked about Carlos' ability to connect with each student and employee. There were examples of how he has reached out to particular students needing reassurance, help, or just a friendly smile. But that is not all. Nearly every staff member has contacted us to be sure that we relay their feeling of how exceptional Carlos is. Carlos is described as a great leader because, now these are in the words of the folks that work with Carlos every day. So he is a great leader because he truly cares for and respects every student, family member, staff, and volunteer. He is supportive, professional, and respectful. He encourages everyone to do the right thing and leads by example. And he always stresses teamwork and expects us all to be reliable and productive. As you can see, Carlos is an all-around great person and well respected by the staff, students, and family at Lawrence Elementary School. Because of these few examples, and I stress few, I could have been here all night talking about how wonderful Carlos is. It is with immense pleasure that I publicly present the 2017 CSEA Chapter 77 Boss of the Year Award to Carlos Villafana, Champion for All. There are lots of guests tonight. They came to support Mr. Villafana. So if there's anyone that would like to say a few words about Mr. Villafana, you're welcome to. If not, we'll go ahead and turn the microphone over to Carlos.
He's an awesome bowler.
Oh, an awesome bowler. Look at that. All of these things that we don't know about you.
That's the 118 average.
There you go.
Well, I am humbled by this, and truly it is an honor and a privilege to serve everyone at Lawrence Elementary School. It is really gratifying to accept this. This is my 8th year there, and I always think if I'm appreciated at a site, then that means something, especially after 8 years, and I'm not just tolerated. So thank you to all the staff and my family who's here, and everyone. Thank you.
Carlos, if anybody would like to take a picture with you up at the front, or just, with the plaque, or...
Can I get everybody up here?
You bet, why not? That's why they're here. We want to see everybody smile. No, just hide us, okay?
We would speak, but we're all shy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
There you go.
No, this was your idea.
Good idea.
Some years ago, right? So you should be up here.
I'm gonna just want to say something about Carl. My gosh, have you ever seen a person pay his dues? With what Deborah was saying at the beginning, my gosh, we want to have administrators, educators that have done what Carlos has done in the past in coming up like actually a narco guy and then become principal of elementary school.
Which one do we start
Everyone
with?
ready? 1, 2, 3.
don't know what I did. I don't know this phone.
We'll help you.
Oh, yeah, this is from this down here, but that's okay. Okay.
Can you introduce your family?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
So my wife, Shelley, and my son, Kyle. And all the Lawrence family here. My sister is back there, Cecilia, who looks like she's in high school. And so, yeah, thank you very
On
much.
behalf of the board, we concur and congratulations. Congratulations, Carlos. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, we have Superintendent Report.
Thank you, Mr. Heberly. That's a great way to start.
Yes, it is.
Have some pictures to show you about some things that are happening out there. Claremont picture is first. They had an anonymous donation of $5,000 for their science camp trip. So somebody, thank you very much. Next, we have Delta Sierra. This is a picture of their honor roll assembly. They had over 200 students recognized for being on the honor roll. This is a school of about 600. So over 200 achieved that honor, and the room was packed, as you can see, with family and loved ones recognizing the students. So I want to say congratulations to Delta Sierra for that. Next, we have a picture of our spelling bee at Creekside. This was an exciting event for our students. Then we have, oh, there's more spelling bee. Mr. Coughlin, of course. You got eliminated? Yes. Actually, I'm going to show this again next time, so next board meeting, pretend like you haven't seen this, because this is our student rep, board rep up there, giving an award at the Boys and Girls Club for the Hall of Fame dinner celebration to his teacher, Janine Jacinto, his teacher from Heritage that he had in elementary school. He is now a senior and is the student body president. So he was there to honor his teacher, as was another student there getting, and that was Janine receiving her award, becoming a member of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, that's a good one too. Go ahead. Next, we have a few pictures. This is the My Books program that Got Kids and Steve Dede sponsor. This is Got Kids Foundation teaching parents about the importance of reading, especially reading by 3rd grade, showing parents how to enjoy a book with their children, even if they can't read themselves or don't speak English. And then having some time to bring their children in and share the book, and they take the book home with them to start their, or add to their library. So these were events that were held at Borchard, Lawrence, and Live Oak. So thank you to those staffs for organizing that, inviting Got Kids to put that on. And thank you very much, Mr. George Neely, who's going to take this over. Our next picture. This is our fabulous team of bus drivers wearing and modeling their very prestigious attire there. These are Got Kids t-shirts. Every bus driver has purchased a Got Kids t-shirt, and several of them have purchased several different shirts in different colors and are wearing them quite often. I think Fridays they all try to wear their shirts, and if you see the bus going by and you see the driver in a bright pink shirt, it's just a beautiful thing to see. So thank you very much to the Transportation Department for supporting this. Every time a shirt is purchased, an item of clothing goes to a child in need, and so they're a huge supporter of this. Thank you, Transportation. Next we have, this was our visit to Delta Sierra again, our next couple of pictures. They're making hands, and part of the activity was to design the hand so that it could pick up an object and throw an object. So that was an example there. And also there's a picture of the robotic class at Delta Sierra. Nope, that's not it. Maybe it's not there. You got it? Where children were designing and building robots, and a couple of them were actually ready to race. No, okay, next time we'll show you that. Also want to let you know that one of our recent graduates from Tokay High School, class of 2016, Brianna Holbert, has been named the 2017-18 National FFA President. National FFA President. Representing over 600,000 members, and I know that Tokay is very excited. They're holding a dinner to honor her. This is a big deal, so congratulations to the whole Tokay community. That's it, thank you.
Thank you very much. A lot of great pictures there, yes. Alrighty, next on the agenda is a Measure U status report. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Heverly, board members, Superintendent Washer. If we could click on the PDF file, we have uploaded the 5 completed projects that Measure U money has been used to fund. This is just a beginning model, so if anybody at home or in the audience would like to see where we currently stand, you can click on this Measure U status report. And then we also have this same link on our district website. If we can scroll down once it does come up. Each one of those line items represents one of our projects where it says complete, the project has been completed. The committed dollar amount is provided as well as the actual expenditures for the product. We'll note that the one item on there that hasn't been completed is the Tokay Stadium, and thus far I believe only $12,000 some odd dollars have been expended on that project. We are not, we're far from complete on this website. I'm sorry we got the whole globe, but I promise when you do click on this from the district website, you'll get a map of the Lodi, North Stockton area, and each of these projects will be represented by a circle that you can click on as well. But we hope to be able to put actual reports and pictures on each of these links. So while we can actually click on each one of the projects down below, there is no information there as yet. So if you click on the one big circle, and I believe that's the Tokay Stadium. So this is how we plan to communicate with the public and our community on all of the expenditures that we will incur under the Measure U bond program. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Leonard, my question is, you called it a Tokay Stadium. What are the plans? Are we going to have a press box and some seating capacity, bleachers, all the good things that come with stadiums like we do in North Stockton with Bear Creek and McNair?
In that committed dollar amount of $3.3 million, and I will remind the board that not listed in there is also $2 million worth of one-time money that was committed many moons ago. That dollar amount does not include the current architectural design for the bleachers. We do have one completed, we do have an architect's recommendation, and we are discussing it internally now, and plan to at least present it as an info item, maybe an info action item in the future.
My recommendation is to make it a full stadium. You know, we use already the Great Bowl for football games right now, Tokay and Lodi.
Yes, sir.
But if you made this a stadium here in the city of Lodi with great sitting capacity, a press box, and all the good score lights and everything that I'm familiar with, you would be able to have Lodi High School play their home games at Tokay.
Understood.
Yes. And if it's just so feasible to do that than to go to the Great Bowl.
The architectural designs do cover bleachers on both the west and the east side, ADA compliance, light poles, as well as a press box as well.
Okay, so then it's gonna be a stadium.
If the
We're gonna have
board,
restrooms and everything
With
accommodated.
additional funding, that requires additional funding.
Additional funding, let's get the additional funding then.
Yeah, sir.
More talk to schools, you know, Measure L did a lot over there, so Measure U should continue to do this with Troquet. That's my recommendation, personally. I don't know what the board thinks.
Any other questions of Mr. Khan? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. The $12,000 actual expenditure, that's quite a misnomer. I drive past there many times a day, and as I think the other board members do too. There's an amazing amount of work going on in that field. I mean, huge mountains of earth that have been moved and great work crews out there. So it's amazing to see the progress that's being made there, and it's far more than $12,000. So.
and well, these are actual expenditures out of
Yes.
our accounting system, so there's far more money encumbered. And as this will be updated, we think at least weekly at this point, so that number will grow. And to reinforce Mr. Freitas's point, we did get one community phone call that was wondering why nobody was out there working as they drove down Ham. Well, there's a 20-foot pile of dirt that blocks the view from the street right now, and there are plenty of crews sitting out in 6-foot trenches putting in the irrigation and the electrical services.
I went to the meeting with Tokay when we talked about the improvements that are going to be made. And one of the things that adds on to this, Joe, is a mini gym.
Yeah.
That's going to be the part where you go in, and then what they're going to do is they're going to move the weight rooms out of the lawnmower shed
Yes.
and move it into that area.
Perfect.
So, yeah, a lot of things are going to be happening. That's going to be the gateway entrance.
That would be great.
So I think it's like $20 million altogether that's going to be spent on Tokay, isn't it, somewhere around?
Currently, without the bleacher project, it's about 20 million.
Yeah. Maybe you could sell cookies, Joe.
I'll sell anything. We'll get some good fundraising. More car wash. There we go. Car wash.
Any other comments from the board?
And that 20 million that George is talking about, that is what our voters, our district voters, thank you very much, wanted. And they knew what the plan was because we had an outstanding facility master plan that was out there. So thank you all of our voters.
Also, like to comment on this is great. Thank you very much. We're going to put a link to this on our website.
It's already there.
So along with everything else that's on our front page.
It's right smack
We're
dab
working on
in.
that, though.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
It's
bringing it up.
it's right in the middle, I believe. No offense to North Stockton, I believe it's right above the Measure L link.
Gotcha.
All right, very good. Any questions or comments from the public? Yes, please come up to the podium.
Hi, my name is Lisa Grassi. I'm a concerned parent from Houston School. I've heard that, I just actually found out a couple hours ago, there's been some talk about you guys closing down Houston
Oh, okay.
School.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. They'll be right after a couple of items. We will be opening it up to public comment, and that's when you'll be able to come up for that. This conversation is still on this particular item at this time, but you'll absolutely get to come up and voice your concerns.
Thank you.
You bet. Any comments on the Measure U status report? All right, thank you, Mr. Khan, appreciate it. Right now, we have a public hearing I'd like to declare open. The Lodi Unified School District contract reopeners with Lodi Pupil Personnel Association, LPPA, for the 2017-18 school year.
Didn't we do this last meeting? Superintendent?
No, it was CSC. Public hearing.
This is the public hearing.
Okay.
You accepted it, and now you have.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Question, comments from the public regarding this issue? All right. I declare the Public hearing closed. Now we have comments from the public. Okay. At this time on the agenda, we have a 20-minute time period set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit his or her comments to 3 minutes, and you are also welcome to distribute any materials to the board and/or staff. Due to the restrictions imposed by the California Brown Act regarding discussing topics that are not on the agenda, board members may not engage in dialogue about the issue. And just for clarification, what the Brown Act is saying when we have things open to the public is, you are more than welcome to come up and raise your issues, but it cannot start a dialogue, and we could always, maybe direct you to someone to talk to regarding your issue. Because the business of a public agency has to be declared on the agenda in order for it to be a full discussion. So if we don't respond to you, that's why I'm telling you this. So, okay, and first up, you can either come up when I'm done with this. These people have put in cards that they'd like to address the board, and then after that I will again open it up to anyone. Okay, our first public comment would be from Lustek. Please come forward to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, and I'm happy to give me opportunity to talk to you. Don't take much time. I moved but just give you an introductory who am I. I just moved from North Carolina and make California my home due to some personal reason. I am a candidate to City Council election in 2018. I'm a notary public, that's my living. So anyhow, I just come to talk is a main issue which I feel, being a human being, that everybody here, I think, have a transport. Me too. But some have no transport. How they take their kids to the school, I'm interested for higher, but right now I'm talking about the elementary school. They have no resources. A 5 and 6 year kid walk 2 and 3 miles to go to the school, and especially in the rain weather. If my children go, I feel very bad. But we have to think about the people who are not blessed, they have no transport. Their children walk in a rainy weather and go to school. I request to the board to please think about that and keep in your agenda to provide free buses to the elementary school kids. The reason for another is their mother or father take them to the school and then take from school to home. They cannot do anything. If buses will do this job, they can go and find a job and can have a better life. I don't know you people think about that or not, but that was in mind when I take my kids to the school. I see a little kid walk in a way like this and go to school. He's a human being. He's an American. He born here. He has the same right as my kid has the right. So I request you people, and especially to the boards, to please keep an agenda to provide free buses to the elementary school kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next card I have for speaker is Lisa Gracie.
Well, we've already met, so.
Oh, yes, go ahead. It's for anything.
He actually makes a great point. I'm a concerned Houston school parent. I have 3 boys. One just graduated from Houston last year. One is going to be in 6th grade next year. And my youngest will be starting kindergarten next year. There's been some talk around that you guys are thinking of closing Houston School and making it Joe Cerna Charter School. Well, I just saw on your board you spent $600,000 on a new roof for Joe Cerna. So that, to me, I don't understand why you would be closing that school, and I know you cannot answer on the subject, but I'm pleading with you as a Houston school mom, please do not take our school away. Our boys and girls live very close to the school. Like you said, I'm a working mom. I'm blessed enough to have another parent pick up my child and bring him to school. There's no way I'm going to be able to get my kid to school in Mockford or in Lodi. We live out in a little rural country area. And I just plead with you guys, please leave Houston alone. Leave us be, please don't take that school away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Karen Minnick?
Good evening.
Evening.
We've met before too. My name is Karen Minnick and I'm the Bear Creek High School Speech and Debate Coach. And tonight I'd like to make you aware of a dire situation that we're currently facing in our schools that especially, of course, affects Bear Creek. Currently, our school enrollment is 2128 as of this morning. Lodi High and Tokay are both sitting at about 2100. McNair's current enrollment, however, is only 1700. That discrepancy in enrollment between our two North Stockton schools are over 400 students. That's the size of an entire graduating high school class. That's obviously caused undue crowding and the subsequent issues that stem from that problem. The obvious effect of overcrowding is rising tensions among students who are stacked on top of one another. I was at the creek before McNair was built. I don't know if y'all remember that, but I witnessed that turmoil firsthand. It permanently scarred our reputation, and it's taken us years to rebuild it into that positive school culture that we have today and that we're very, very proud of. If we continue to pack students into this environment, there'll be negative issues that directly affect everyone's safety. In addition to, of course, the issue of school climate, there's other necessities such as restroom facilities that have not been added as our buildings have been, custodians, counselors, assistant principals. All of those numbers have stayed or dropped while our numbers of students have increased. The other obvious effect of that situation is large class sizes and more sections overall, so that teachers have to share classrooms and some work 120%. We've been told it is district policy that our school is not full until every classroom is used every period. That concept might work for other industries, but not for school. It doesn't promote ownership or security of any kind. We can't interact with students effectively because we're busy transitioning from place to place. We always want our students to feel at home in our classroom, but we can't do that when we ourselves have no classroom to call home. When teachers can create an inviting home-like place, we all know that it creates an environment where students are more open and ready to learn. The solution to this problem is simple. We need to balance the numbers between the high schools so that the populations are more equitable. If it's a matter of inter-district transfers, then that issue could be addressed to ensure the loss of students at one school does not negatively impact another. If it's a matter of boundaries, then they need to be redrawn. If it's a matter of students choosing Bear Creek over McNair, especially because of their block schedule, then that schedule needs to be addressed. I certainly appreciate the right of a staff to choose that schedule. I'm not giving up modified traditional, that's for sure. But the board does need to consider the impact that an overcrowded school site has on the education of students and, of course, subsequent test scores. I respectfully request that the board make this issue of leveling our enrollment numbers among the high schools a priority. It's an issue of both equity and safety. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Next up, we have Cindy Robles. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm a Houston mom. I have 3 boys there. Well, I had 4. One just graduated from Houston. He's in high school now. I just heard like another parent, you guys are gonna take it away, close it, give it to somebody else. I don't think that's fair because it belongs to, all the kids. And my son heard me talking on the phone about it with another parent and he started crying because you guys are gonna take his school away and his teachers away and his friends away. I mean, yeah, it's small, but everybody knows everybody. My kids have a bond with the teachers. The teachers know me. Everybody knows everybody. So I don't think it's fair you guys taking something that belongs to the children. My kids and other kids that go there. My kids have a lot of friends. They love the teachers. They love Houston. And I don't think it's fair you guys taking that school away from my kids and giving it to somebody else. Please, can you keep it there where it belongs? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Dee Dee St. John?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dee Dee St. John, and I also have children at Houston School. Us parents have all gotten together, and once we heard what was going on, because we want to protect our school. We live in a rural area to where our kids don't have the privilege to walk. We're in the country. Some do, some don't. Some live right across the street. If we close our school, our kids are going to have to be on a bus for an hour going to another school to overflow. I don't feel that it's fair that our community is going to be interrupted and our kids riding buses when they live right across the street because they want to put Joe Cerna out in a campo. I feel that as parents, we will stand up and fight, and we will come to every meeting and speak our mind. I don't feel that it's fair that we're being not targeted, but that we're going to be uprooted to move somewhere else when our kids have gone there from kindergarten, some to 8th grade. It's not fair for them, our kids, to possibly go to different schools if we have siblings because of the overcrowding that we have in Lodi. So I don't feel that I want to send one kid to Washington, one kid to Lockford, one kid to Millswood when we have our kids at one school. It makes it very difficult for single parents, for busing, which we don't have enough of as it is, to get our kids to school as it is right now. So I don't understand what it's going to accomplish in the long run. So I just want you guys to know that we will talk to who we need to talk to, petition who we need to petition. If I have to call the news, I'll do whatever I have to do to save our school. I just wanted to let you guys know that, and thank you for your time.
If there are any other audience members who'd like to come to the podium, please state your name and you're more than welcome to talk to us. Okay, thank you so much. Next on the agenda is our action items. Are there any items that board members would like to pull for further consideration?
Item A5, please.
A5? Okay.
Mr. President, pull item A13 for abstention.
And A11 for comment.
And A11. Castle. Okay. Any others, board members? Any items on the consent agenda that would like to be pulled by a member of the audience?
Did I hear that A11 was already pulled?
A11 is already pulled, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the rest of the routine agenda A.
Second.
Okay, I'm making notes of who pulled what. Okay, we have a first and second to accept the remaining items. Student preferential vote. Signify by saying aye.
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 Great, thank you so much. And board vote.
Come on, everybody, get with it.
Do it again. All right. Brandy. Ta-da. All righty. Now I gotta vote. And the remaining items of the consent agenda have passed. And we'll go up first, A5, Mr. Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. I pulled this for one reason, that's so I can vote against it. I didn't want to vote against the entire consent agenda. I got a problem with us paying Lodi for police officers at our schools. This isn't a football game, it's not a rock concert. It's not a WWE wrestling match. You know, we don't have to pay, this is a school. We shouldn't be paying Lodi PD to come out here and do their job. And that's $301,000. And I've been talking to other districts, they're not paying it. Cities are providing them their SROs. Now, I know we're gonna play you-know-what trying to get Lodi City to pay for these, but I'm just gonna vote against it. We'll have to go from there, so I'm not gonna say anything else about it right now. I'll just vote.
Very good. I'm just curious, what has it been in the past, Dr. Washer? I mean, have we usually paid this, or?
Mr. Hamlin, members of the board, yes, this is similar to what we have done in the past. Lodi Police Department does provide part of their service. We only pay for part of it, whereas in Stockton, we do pay the full amount. So we do have an arrangement with the city of Lodi for that.
And Dr. Washer, could you elaborate a little bit what you received?
This is for the services of the SRO, so they are typically housed at the high schools, but they can serve schools within their assigned region, so they do work with the middle schools and elementary as well. They're most visible at the high schools.
What are their duties?
They are to serve as a positive influence with children in the community. It is not meant to be a piece of the discipline plan. They, of course, are there to help if any type of emergency or critical issue arises, but their main responsibility is to build relationships and to help students feel connected to school and connected to another adult on campus.
And we're actually in 3 jurisdictions. We're in Stockton PD's jurisdiction, Lodi PD's jurisdiction, and the sheriff's.
That is a new one for us, is the connection we have with the county, and so we do have an arrangement with the sheriff's department as well for our county schools.
And are any of those 3 jurisdictions waiving their fees?
No, I would say we are getting the best arrangement with Lodi.
And that's a partial payment, and I think it's a partial payment with the sheriff's office.
Yeah, yes. We have more, of course, with Lodi because of the numbers of schools.
Very good. All right.
In Stockton Unified, they have their own police department.
Correct.
So do they have SROs also, or?
I do not believe so.
Okay,
Yes,
so
they
they're.
do. I don't know. They do.
Okay. So Stockton Unified also is paying money for.
I don't know what their
But with
arrangement
the
is.
police department, they must be paying for loans. Well,
I don't know what it is.
I don't know what their contract is.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I move approval of item A5.
Second.
Okay, the motion and second for item A5, student preferential vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Or nay.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Board vote. And the motion passes 6 yeses, 1 no. Next, next item is A7, Ms. Castle.
Actually, A11.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I looked right at it and said the wrong word.
That's all right.
Yes, 7-Eleven.
A11 is the 2017-2018 Title I School Site Single Plan for Student Achievement. So these are all comprehensive plans written by the principals, and I just wanted to acknowledge that these are comprehensive, long plans. Do we have, I believe we have some Title I school principals in the audience. Would you stand, please? And I would like to thank you for working on these plans and for being here. Thank you so much. And yes, please be seated. And I'd also like to share with you that I have asked as a future board agenda item, I would like to have a dialogue between the board and Title I school site administrators, because I know you face very unique challenges. I know you work very, very hard. I would like to just have a very positive talk about how the board can understand all that you do and how we can support you. And that, there's no time yet this year. We only have one more board meeting left in December. But in the spring, I would sincerely like that to happen. But thank you again. I know these reports take a lot of time, so thank you for that and for being here.
I also have a comment. I think your point is well taken, Ms. Castle, that sometimes there needs to be discussion and better understanding and a little bit of give and take and that kind of thing. So in the future, I would recommend that these site plans come to us as a report item and give us time to have some discussion, and that if there is any additions, subtractions, adjustments, or whatever, or even multiple discussions, we have time for that. Any other questions from board members? We do have a, oh yes, go ahead.
Just one question for our administrators that are out there. When I was a teacher at Creekside, we had a difficult time getting parental input when we were working on our plan. I was wondering, how are you experiencing that? Are you getting input from parents on this and teachers?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Anyone not?
George, we have to, so we make it happen.
You make it happen,
We make
okay.
it happen.
All right, I like that. Okay, I mean, we're having a heck of a time getting anybody to come to talk about it.
Okay.
Well,
When you say, excuse me, when you say you have to, is that a requirement of the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And are there also meetings with like your parent group, you know, PTSA or PTA, school site councils? Yeah, I was on the school site council, it always came to us. But honestly, I mean, it's been probably 20 years since I was on the school site council. And it was like, okay, here's the plan. It's on the agenda. And we kind of, it's a lot to digest in a quick time frame. So I'm hoping that we're doing a little bit better of that. I see heads going like this. Okay, very good. That helps a lot. More heads are now going like this. Okay, because it should never be something that's put together as an individual principle and then ramrodded through the system. So great. I would like that approach. I just hope it's universal throughout. Any other board members?
I want to just mention, I want to support Bonnie on that concept about having the Title I principles in. I think that's a fantastic idea. Give us some time with the plan, the single plan for students achievement first, and then we can have that.
Right.
I think all of that would be a logical sequence and a process. Also, we do have a comment, Michelle. That's the one you wanted pulled, correct?
Correct.
Double checking, okay.
Great to hear some of the affirmative. I'm here tonight, not for the affirmative, but many questions. Since we've been talking and meeting and working on transparency, I have many members questioning the single plans before you. Some of them are before you tonight, and budget transparency at sites. So how would you like us, as Leah, to ask the questions regarding the plans? Mr. Heberly, you just made a suggestion about a report item, but as stakeholders, many of us, had devoted our time, our energy, our own personal finances to give to our respective schools. After contract, beyond our contract day. What is the best way for school site teachers, school site representatives, both parents and teachers, to share concerns about how school site councils is organized, For example, elections versus appointments, to announcements, the agenda, the sharing of the data on the school site plan, and the decision-making process for the expenditures that you see in each of these school site plans. We want to know that if there is not a quorum, what should be done at these school site council meetings? If the meeting is canceled outright, how long should our members wait to see that school site council meeting rescheduled? We want to know that as we discuss a paradigm shift in how we fund our schools, as we've been talking about the LCAP, and instead of being top down from the bottom up, that school sites have a great responsibility in saying what's important for the students at their site. What makes a difference in that data that you see as those test results? We understand that school site members all should be trained. Teachers, parents, staff. If we need more training, CTA does offer school site council training, and we'd be more than happy to help facilitate that training if needed. We have questions about how to monitor the minutes of school site council. Is this a private document or a public document under the Brown Act? If school site council is supposed to be 50% of the staff on the council, the ones to hear, to see, to give input and know what the budget is for the site, and they don't see it, what do we do? What do we do when they are sworn to secrecy, to not share with the rest of staff or parents? Are we being transparent? What do we do when the site plan is not accurate? You are trusting tonight that all of those plans are correct. What if it's not? What recourse do sites have if they've never seen the document before Friday? We are approving interventions at some sites and discontinuing interventions at some sites without any say by the entire staff. We know in August they get about 80% of the Title I allocations, preliminary numbers. We get that, comes out in August. Then they get the follow-up money. But when do the stakeholders, the teachers, have a say in how those dollars should be allocated? Do we not trust that they see what influences that testing data that drives part of the funding? But we're only considering maybe one tenured teacher and 2 interns on school site council to represent the voice. Interns who were not here last year during what worked or didn't work and giving suggestions. Our interns are under a great deal of stress and amount of work. I think we've all had that discussion and agreed. With attending school at night and being in a classroom for the first time with students, this probably should not be the committee that an intern is on. Again, transparency. Do we really want feedback about what works, what doesn't work? As we've talked about, those courageous, difficult sometimes, conversations. I have brought some concerns about school site council to Ms. Lampkin. What do I do next? Beyond speaking to Ms. Lampkin. And I did get a message from Ms. Katowski and didn't have an appointment to meet with her. So what can be the process as we go forward to make sure that we have a check, a balance, an amend if needed, an adjust if needed and suggested? We know these plans need to be approved tonight so that people get paid. Their money is tied to these plans. Leah had all intentions up until that realization that our members might not get paid if we pulled site plans tonight. So going forward, I would ask those questions tonight to reflect on how do we adjust this and those that we see some errors in. Those that we know have school site council members who are not elected listed on a form. I heard tonight from a principal that we do it. Courageous conversations. Are we doing everything we should do by the rules? I leave you with that question tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I had been on school site councils at my children's schools for several years, and there was a big variation in how school plans were brought forward. And, okay, it's been a few years ago. But one of the things that I realized fairly early on is that, there was a binder that came from the state of California, Department of Ed, and it outlined the do's and don'ts and the rules and so forth about site councils. And they really were more important and had more responsibility than any of us thought. And so I'm assuming that is still okay. And our lead person on school site councils and site plans would be Ms. Katowski?
Between Ms. Fierro, Josephine Fierro oversees education support services.
Okay.
We work together, but yes.
Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Michelle, I apologize, where are you at? I apologize, I ran out, I had to catch that parent because they were leaving, and I had to speak to them before. But I listened to everything you're saying. Now, here's what I think we need to do, all right? First of all, is you gotta name names. We got to be specific, because when you say things like this, then we think that we've got it across the board, that issue. And Carlos may be sitting over here saying, I haven't got that issue, So we need to let Carlos off the hook if he doesn't have that issue. So we need to be specific so that we can address these things. We need to name names, okay? And it may just be because our principals, at that school, that might be a new principal or, I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm not here to blame. I want to fix. So you've got an issue, help us fix it. Tell us what it is. I mean, we can sit up here and say, Lisa, take care of that. Or we can try to help Lisa take care of that. So I for one, and I'm sure the rest of the board too, wants this thing solved and fixed. I'd like to see all the schools, not just Title I doing this plan. I love the idea of it,
All of them.
So, yeah, that came from Title I principals. Yeah.
If I have to do it, they have to do it.
This is a good place for us to get this working and working together. We need to get you guys and district working together on this. So I look forward to, I think you and I have got a coffee and conversation coming up. And
Can I, to your comments about working together, we agree.
Yes.
Since this came up, 72 hours before the board meeting.
No.
It was school sites that called in. It was school sites that said, this is wrong.
Right.
It's school sites that are saying, I want you to know this.
Yeah.
And they are trusting in all of us to work together. I agree. And as I stated to Ms. Lampkin, I gave her 2 names of 2 sites that we were going to pull, but we have others that have
given us positive feedback on things that they're doing on the Title I school site plan that you
Right.
see there.
Yeah.
Because when it was brought to our attention, we then asked members to report, and they have. We've also had some that are going, we've seen nothing of the numbers, only the
Right.
data. So most school sites have not seen, as you look at the end, and I don't know if Michael can bring up one of them, the end document where it says you're going to spend so much for the Title I, they have not seen that. Not all the teachers.
Right,
And
right.
sometimes it's one tenured teacher who has seen the budget part of that. And that, we want to work, and that's why
Absolutely.
we talked the other day.
It's a great beginning. I'm really happy that they called in. And there's kind of a couple different components to this. One is we got to have them involved way earlier. And
Agreed.
make it.
And I think
second
the
part-
report, bringing it as a report item
That's the other thing I was going to say.
was a
exactly.
good idea.
That's a great idea. Then we'll put it out there for a couple of weeks and we can all kind of look at it. Because I'm telling you what, if you want to read all of those and then all of the changes and
agree.
the policies
No, this-
that Mr. Khan brought to us,
Yes.
that's a lot of
Agreed.
reading.
There are more.
And I would piggyback on that, obviously, and that's the intent of the report item, but it goes, like Mr. Neely said, way before that. And my experience of the site plans, and it was not a Title I school, wow. Input was real sketchy at best, but again, I'm talking a couple of decades ago. So I look at this as, here we are today, it's a fixable thing, it's within our control, we can fix things, whatever we identify. We're gonna have stellar school plans and involvement and all that. Okay, that will be the standard, okay? We should, best practices kind of thing, and that's all I'm looking at. And I will volunteer to meet with whoever we need to initiate that conversation and identify what the problems are, because once you do that, now you've got a roadmap to repair and fix. Okay, simple as that.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
thought we established already that we will get some reports on these school site plans. Right now,
Yes.
they're in the embryo stages, and I read there's 37, 38 pages of all these things that are going, and they have some percentages there that might not accomplish. They have some percentages that might go above. All those plans, I've read most of them, and I think they're pretty good, and there's a start to them. We have to have something to start with these schools, and I don't think we've ever done it before, and I think we can accomplish things, but it's established that these plans, we're going to have a report from the principals, and I appreciate that, and see what the progress is. I have one teacher over there who tells me, oh, I wasn't involved. That doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me the whole enrollment of the school staff that they're complaining about it. There's only one teacher that tells, well, I wasn't involved with it. Get involved, okay? So that's my spiel on this.
Okay, Mr. Freitas.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank all of our principals and staff involved for the hard work that was in these plans. They're very, a lot of work went into them. They were obviously right on point, and I greatly appreciate all the effort that went in behind it. And with that, I would move to approve item A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Student preferential vote. Signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much. Board members, bring it back to you.
Mike, I've lost the meeting here somewhere.
Slow electronics tonight. At least we don't have 30 little kids' faces staring at us going, there's no computer. All right, are we on? Hey, there we go. Is this it? No, the sign is.
Oh, yes, it is a new design. Very good. Very good.
Electronic copy of the district attorney's office.
Yeah, there we go, it's the district attorney. All right, the motion passes 7-0, and obviously, we will move forward with this item. Okay, let's see, the next one is item 813, Mr. Freitas.
I pull this matter to abstain.
Okay, very good.
I move we approve.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Nava, a second by Mr. Neely. Student preferential vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, and board vote.
Freitas absent.
He was absent. He was laying on the pavement. Okay, motion passes, 6 yeses and 1 abstention. All right, that does it for consent agenda. We are now on consent agenda B, which is student discipline cases. Any questions from the board? Any?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve current agenda B, consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Thank you, Mr. Talkin, for the second. Students, you do not vote on student matters. Board vote. And motion passes 7-0. All right, other action items. Item OA1 would be Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Heverly, members of the board, Dr. Washer. This is certainly one of the more important items the board reviews every year. However, I think that is maybe superseded by the fact that Ms. Fong will be presenting our Gilbert auditing team for the last time to present the report. I would like to commend her 16 years with the district. I can tell you that in all my business experience in any industry, she's the gold standard of controllers. I will miss, I've only been here a short time, but we already have a mini tradition. I will miss Ms. Fong's and my fried chicken confabs pre-board. And I wish her well in retirement, and I hope she doesn't take that term retirement literally. Without
Mr. Khan, I totally agree, and that's why I decided to move this item to the last of the agenda so you could stay with us even longer. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so, Mr. President, if we continue this to next year, then
She has to come back.
as well.
Your service obviously has been noted, and we will definitely miss you. I agree. Alrighty, yeah, there's a lot to say about Maria. So,
Thank you, Mr. Heverly.
yes. What are you gonna do with the girl named Maria? All right, yeah, whatever. Okay, that's it. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Heverly, Dr. Washer, member of the board, and Mr. Kent. Peggy Mentavine, the partner for our Gilbert Accountancy, will be presenting the audit report. We have already met with the audit committee a couple of weeks ago, November 1st, and we went in great detail over the audit. Tonight, she will go over and give us highlights of the audit and any question you have for her. That's Peggy Mentavine. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. And I'm thrilled to be here on Maria's last day. I haven't had an opportunity to work with her.
Not the last day.
I have had the opportunity of working with her for several years, and I would like to confirm that I would give her a gold star. Ms. Lodi has been one of our firm's premier clients. Our staff love coming to work with Maria and the team and everybody at the district, and I know Maria has a big hand in ensuring that the audit gets done efficiently, effectively. And this is the first audit report we issue every year, so, and that is a lot to do with Maria and her team, so I'm hoping that continues. So thank you. So as Maria mentioned, we did meet with the audit committee back on November 1st and went through the 79-page audit report in grave detail for over an hour, so I will not do that tonight. I'm really here just to go over a brief executive summary, which was provided to you in your handout. The district's report is a clean opinion. We had no audit adjustments and no findings. This is pretty consistent. We've had findings over the years, but for this district this size, and we go out to various different sites and different programs, we test federal and state compliance. In fact, we also do your bond measures, and we'll meet with your oversight committees in December. For a district this size to have no findings, that's a great achievement. So going through the report, we do have a clean, unqualified opinion on the financials. What we're presenting here is the June 30, 2017 financial statements. The numbers that were presented back in September in your unaudited actual are consistent with what are in your financial statements, and we do give a clean opinion on those. The financial statements provide an overview of more detailed information, such as your capital assets, your long-term debt. The new bond measure that you issued this year, the $80 million, is incorporated into the financials this year and has been incorporated in our testing procedures. In terms of the scope of our services, I mentioned that there's compliance aspects, federal and state compliance. The district has over $33 million in federal expenditures it receives every year or spends every year. We do test random programs, and this year we focused on your National School Lunch Program and found no areas of concern. So the district does run a very clean operation in every aspect that we come across. Everybody is always very forthcoming in providing us information that we request. And I know we're here for a long period of time, and we spend a lot of hours, and we request a lot of information, and we have nothing but good things to say about the audit process and working with the district. And if anybody has any questions, I know it's a large document, and I went through it very quickly. I know there's 3 members of the board that I met with already, and we went through in very great detail. So,
Board members, any questions, comments? Okay, members of the audience, any questions, comments? Oh, yes.
It's really fast. Well, everyone knows I've been on the board the longest, and I have to say, Peggy, that for you to say, and you say this every year, even if we have something wrong, it's not that wrong. We tweak it, we fix it. And I have to say, Maria, that's such a big part of your legacy with us. It truly is, and I think it just all makes us so proud. We are a huge, complicated district, for heaven's sake, and for us to always shine in so many ways, but this is such an important way that we always do. So thank you, Peggy, for your report, and for Maria and all your staff that work so hard on this. And you better come back and say hello from time to time. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think everyone knows that finances are very, very important to me, because mismanagement of finances can cripple a district, and that's dollars that aren't going into classrooms for our kids. And that we receive these A+ ratings every single year, and these clean bill of health, because our finances are so well run. It's just, it means so much to me. And it talks about the personnel that we have. First was Mr. Hearn, now a seamless transition to Mr. Kahn, and then the individual support of Maria and the entire fiscal division. Thank you very, very much, because you don't have to look very hard. You can do the laziest Google search out there and just find districts that have made huge, huge mistakes fiscally and are now paying the consequences. And that we don't hurt and hamper our students that way means so much to us. And Maria, thank you so very, very much, because like Bonnie said, this is your legacy. And I've been on the board now, this is my 6th year, going on my 7th, thereabouts, something like, lose count when you're having fun, right? So that, but have we ever had an audit that had one issue in my legacy? I don't think so. I don't think we, and that's absolutely unheard of. That, that's a 20-game winner. That's a 30-game winner every single year in the major leagues, and with our amount of money. So thank you very much. And that, Mr. President, I move to approve the
Second.
Audit report.
Okay.
Begrudgingly,
Well, I did want to mention that, unlike Bonnie, I'm the youngest one on this board. But I have been around accounting a little bit since that was what I taught at Lodi High School. And I did appreciate the way that both you were able to present the information in an understandable way. And the hour went by pretty fast. There were some laughs during that meeting. I even remember, that an outflow looks like it's like a little A, which is kind of like an asset. None of the rest of stuff didn't make sense. But I like the way that you brought it down to the level that the rest of us could understand, and I can see why these folks have been so glowing of your performance. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to add too, is being on that committee and being in those meetings for a few years now, it's I think that's part of the fun part of your job, is learning all the new state rules and regulations. And that was some of our jokes. It's like, really? Where'd that come from? But anyway, very good as always. Thank you. And Peggy, thank you for your comments. It does speak volumes for their team, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Anytime we have something that comes up, the district is very forthcoming and wanting to address it. And they take a lot of pride in doing a good job. And so we really appreciate it. We love working with clients like that. And so we really have enjoyed this relationship.
Very good. Do you have another comment? We do have a motion on the floor, but we still have comment periods.
Well, that's just because he spoke out of turn.
Well, he's quick.
That's right. Riff. Maria, thank you so much for all the work that you've done for this district. We greatly appreciate it. The financial soundness of Lodi Unified. We went through some tough times back in 08 to 10 to 12. It was pretty tough, but you got us through all of that. Thank you so much for that. I also want to give my appreciation to Mr. Khan and the superintendent. You guys continue to run a tight ship. I get to see a lot of districts where they're not quite so tight. As a matter of fact, they're not even much of a ship. But you guys have done a fantastic job here, and thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? We do have a motion on the floor from Mr. Freitas and a second, Mr. Neely? Or was that Gary?
I don't know. I'll say, I don't know.
Okay, and second, Mr. Neely. Any further discussion? Questions, comments? All right. Student preferential vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good, thank you so much, and we'll bring it back to the board. And item 1 passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good evening, safe travels. Hopefully it's not too foggy for you.
No, not tonight.
Oh,
It
good.
has been in past years, though.
Yeah. All righty, one-time money, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Heberly, members of the board, Dr. Washer. The board may recall that at the regular board meeting of September 19th, we introduced a potential one-time money list for the expenditure of the $3.991 million that we did receive for the last budget year. Recently, actually, let me state that the CBO and the Assistant Superintendent of Elementary, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary, and Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction have worked directly with our teams to identify potential uses for one-time money. Recently, the group of us met again to hammer out at least a recommendation to the superintendent. The list that you see before you are those recommendations that we are currently making to the superintendent.
Okay. Any questions, board members? Comments? Members of the audience, any questions or comments on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve these one-time monies.
Second.
Motion and second. Student preferential vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Board vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item 3, Mr. Khan, you're on a roll.
Thank you, sir. Well, we've thanked Maria enough, but now we get to blame her for leaving us and forcing us to slightly reorganize the accounting and budget divisions of the Business Services Department. There are no major changes in this reorg. The board did approve Ms. Mernon as the senior director. She will oversee the organization that Maria has left in such fine shape. The board will note that on the presented org chart, there is a red item that is our risk management section. We are still discussing possibilities for that portion of the accounting controllers division. However, on the chart, there is no change to the reporting structure of that area as yet. If we do seek board approval to change something, we will certainly reintroduce it at a future board meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions about it. Sure.
Mr. Khan, I have one. You presently have 37 members on that committee, as you displayed on the board information. Now you're only proposing 35.
Well, we still have we have the director position to fill.
Yes, I counted the positions.
Okay, let me go back and look. I
just was going to compliment you for
no,
coming back.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
And again, the same thing. I think every dollar that we spend correctly is a dollar that we can also spend in the classroom and not necessarily having a little bit of extra time. This last weekend, I went through this plan and it makes a lot of sense. And we hired Mr. Khan for his innovative ideas, and I think this organization is innovative, and I think is going to best serve the district. So with that, I would move to approve the organization.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Members of the public? All right. Again, motion and a second. Board member vote, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. I didn't want to forget you. And board vote. And motion passes 7-0. Let's see here, other action items. Item 4, Mr. McKilligan.
Yes, President Heverly, last meeting we came, the certificated substitutes, we proposed increasing their pay rates by 4%, which is similar to what other employees in the organization received. We're doing the same now for our classified substitute pay rates, again, effective January 1, 2018.
Okay, very good. Board members, any questions, comments?
I move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any members of the public have a comment or question? All right, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. And board vote. And the motion passes 7-0. And number 5, Mr. McKilligan, you again.
Yes, Mr. Heverly, this again is another, or a couple more provisional intern permits for approval to get these people started.
Mr. President, I move approval.
Second.
All righty. And board members, any comments, questions? Public? Student preferential vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Bring it back to the board. Motion passes 7-0. We are now done with other action items. On to personnel matters. Mr. McKilligan.
Mr. Heverly, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Board members, questions, comments?
Chairman, I move we approve the certificated employees.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Students, you do not, excuse me, I'm choking myself. You do not vote on personnel matters, bring it to the board. Motion passes 7-0. Communications. Students, yay. You're up. Who's going to go first?
I'll go first.
Very good. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Washer, my name is Marciano Lua. I'm co-ASB president of Ronald E. McNair High School. For school activities and programs, our varsity volleyball finished second place. This is the first time our program qualified for playoffs. We were fortunate enough to be able to host playoffs at our house. Boys football finished, and our very own Andrew Ham ended the season as the leading all wide receiver. Our girls golf finished second place. For student government, we had a Hollow Homecoming, which was our Halloween themed rally. It was something new that we did, and our students really seemed to enjoy it. We had fog machines, spooky decorations. One side of our gym was for underclassmen, and the other side of our gym was for upperclassmen. For that Spirit Day, upperclassmen wore black and underclassmen wore orange. We're hoping that this would spark a tradition within our student government to do a Halloween-themed rally for future student government years to come. Our next big event is Winter Formal, of course, in December. We're currently prepping and discussing how we will execute a successful dance. We have other future events that we need further discussing about. For performances, presentations, and events, Lean Crew finally had their haunted house the day before Halloween. It was very successful. Everyone loved being scared. It was way better than last year's. I heard about some of their plans for next year, and I'm really excited to come back to McNair to look at their new haunted house. Our Key Club went to Six Flags Discovering Kingdom for a spirit competition with their division. Their division included 9 schools, including schools from Stockton Unified and Lodi Unified. And they brought back the spirit stick for the first time in 3 years. Their division raised over $2,000 for the pediatric trauma program. That was very successful because winning that spirit stick was, as I know, because I'm in Key Club, it's a really big thing for our club because we tried so hard to win it previous years and we were unsuccessful, but this year we were successful, and that was the highlight of our Key Club school year. For special student staff accomplishments and recognitions, I'd like to point out that McNair has the most students graduating with their A through G requirements met. For co-curriculars, our very own garden club, along with the National Honor Society, hosted a campus cleanup where after school, students of both clubs grabbed trash bags and gloves and picked up trash around the school, paper wrappers, and they really wanted to beautify our school, and I was really appreciative of that, and they were very successful. Some upcoming activities and events is obviously our Winter Formal. Our theater department is hosting a Hogwarts mystery dinner in our atrium. There'll be food provided, and they're having some very fun activities I've heard they planned. Lean Crew always hosts a Cocoa Cram to help students when finals come around. So the week of, usually the day before finals start, Lean Crew hosts a Cocoa Cram sometimes in our gym to help tutor students to prepare for finals, typically more freshmen rather than any like upperclassmen, because finals is new to them. It's very stressful. They participated in finals the first time around, and I'm hoping that their next Cocoa Cram will be very successful for them. And that's all I have.
Great report. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And you are up, Jasmine.
Hello, Mr. President, Dr. Washer, and members of the board. My name is Jasmine Villanueva, and I'm the ASB president of Tokyo High School. Last week, we organized the blood drive with Red Cross and collected 59 units of blood. And we also had our Spirit Week, the week of our Lodi football game. Student government is continuing to collect recycling from our classrooms around campus, and we've raised over $500. And we are planning a spring dance and our Mr. Tokay pageant. Also, Comedy Sports, they presented October 27th, and the band hosted the Great Bowl Classic and went to Santa Cruz for a band review. The jazz band also performed with the Stockton Symphony. Jaime Quesada signed a letter of intent to play baseball at Greenville University. And also for our co-curricular accomplishments, we beat Lodi in our football game, and the girls made it to water polo and the semifinals. The band received 4th at the D2A band parade competition and 3rd at the D2A sweepstakes. And also upcoming, we are having our trials for our winter sports. And to touch again on Brianna Holbert's accomplishment of being named the National FFA President, she's also the first African American female to hold that position. Yeah. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Jasmine, appreciate it. And you're obviously welcome to stay, but if you need to go, that's understandable too.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, students, appreciate it. Alrighty, we have employee group representatives. I see a few faces, so who would like to go first?
You go right ahead. Oh, maybe John.
John,
What you got,
Michelle,
John?
Deborah?
Wow.
Here we go. Alrighty, thank you.
Put all our eggs in Michelle's basket.
Something today that crossed my path. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. By Helen Keller. Last week was crazy busy at the Leah office. This week started out continuation, probably pre-holiday. We want to keep that as our focus. We know that this is a partnership. That's how we see it. And we see the establishing of the RBET and finalizing the committee members as working together. A couple of things that I want to bring up that we're concerned about the partnership. The first is an expense that the district is incurring for Edivate, an online PD system. We've asked about this before, and we were told that this was a PD system for administrators at the district office and site admin. We've now heard that more licenses have been purchased, and we've heard that there's a plan in place with a timeline, that scheduling of things has started to take place, November, December, things completed by May of 2018. PD. This is a piece that we understood that the RBET committee would be working on. Is it the district's plan to implement a new PD system and spend thousands of dollars now before we start the committee? It appears that developing this timeline for a new system is undermining the charges of the RBET committee itself. If we are charging professional development now to this system, and we've purchased more licenses for members, is this really something we're working collaboratively on together? If this is the case of changing to a new online PD system, we do hope that the district brings this to the table because we see this as changing the working conditions. We do appreciate, switching topics, our technology. I was thankful as a parent for robocalls about things that happened on my children's campus. Last week, we had some robocalls that went out. We do understand that they were sent to parents first by mistake. But, like me, I still have yet to get a call or an email from the district about the message. So our question about communication, how are we verifying that those personnel, staff numbers, teachers, our first line of defense for safety are accurate? It's been reported that some sites got the call after 6 p.m. that evening. Some members still have said, I've yet to get the call or the email. You heard tonight from some Houston parents about the Joe Cerna Houston, I don't know what to call it,
I received phone calls at the end of last week saying that a parent meeting had been held at Joe Cerna to talk about moving Joe Cerna to Houston. And that the first year, people had information that the first year busing would be committed for the children from Cerna to Houston. I did speak to Ms. Lampkin, and she indicated that this is just informational seeking. However, teachers were told at Houston that they should be looking at the transfer timeline. That says to me and my teachers, things are happening. Action is taking place. Ms. Lampkin and I discussed the miscommunication. So maybe as we start that informational process, there might be a way to include Leah in so I can shoot down what I think happened tonight, because as I spoke to members saying, no, it was informational, it didn't get out to everybody. And so again, working on that communication of how are we going to disseminate information. I remember when Needham and Heritage, it was Heritage Intermediate at the time, Ms. Council came to several informational meetings to look at our site and talk about it and talk to parents. But everybody was included on the communication as to even when we were looking at, everybody heard the same message. And that doesn't seem to be the case here. We think that we can communicate better district-wide. We have the technology to do that. A couple of things this week that have been troublesome are subs and the lack of subs, and we know it's an issue. Again, we'd like to reiterate, maybe following through with last year's philosophy, if there is no sub, do we suggest to our administrators to step in and take that class instead of the farming out? Teachers reported being called from someone, sounds like site-wise, to come back. How sick really are you? Well, when the teacher's calling me and saying, I couldn't leave the bathroom, I can't come in. Now, if there's a chronic issue, we believe personnel has a way to rectify that. But we really need to be careful about the message that's sending. If people are sick, let's take them at their professional word unless there's a problem. We also know that PBIS training did occur a couple weeks ago, and there weren't enough subs to cover that training. So maybe we need to look at verifying substitutes before we hold the training, or less school sites being involved at each time, so that teachers who think that the training is valuable are not sitting there going, my kids are farmed out to 3 classrooms. I want to go back. So again, together, we can't do this alone, and we really want to work with you on changing those. And we hope that in a future board report that maybe we can get a report from, I'm not sure if it would come from Ms. Vedica, but we have high school teachers that are teaching off a cart and going from room to room, and they'd like to know what the status is of that. We know that that is not an effective practice to be rolling your classroom from classroom to classroom and not have one place. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Deborah, John, okie dokie. Any other employee groups? None seen. We shall move on to board members. Who'd like to go first? Okay, George, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Well, I just want to report on some observations I made at the Silva Harvest Festival. I think it was October the 27th. One of the things I saw was lots and lots of parents and teacher volunteers manning a whole lot of booths with a lot of kids having a lot of fun. They had a silent auction. The other thing I saw were Bear Creek High School has a Red Cross club that were in force volunteering, just showing people where to go and answering questions. There were a lot of booths, but the one thing that kind of cracked me up was everybody was participating in the booths, but there was a whole cadre of kids over on the monkey bars and the climbing apparatus, just just playing around on that stuff instead of throwing balloons and all the other stuff they were supposed to be doing. It kind of cracked me up to see those kids doing that kind of stuff, being kids. Both Stockton PD and Stockton Fire were there. Stockton policeman that was one of the biggest guys I think I've ever seen. But what was interesting was that they stopped, talked to kids, knelt down and had their pictures taken with the kids. So I made sure I went up and talked to them and told them how much, how much we appreciated them being there and participating that way. So it was a good event, and I just wanted to report upon it.
Thank you. Don, anything?
This is now the time that we say God Kids Casino Night? Did I miss
God,
that last week?
I was going to say that. Somebody missed that on the superintendent's report.
I gotta tell you, if you weren't there, you missed a heck of a good time. It was very well attended. We absolutely had a blast, the Frases and the other board members, and what a great cause, raising so much money for our great kids. So
30,000.
And who's the president of God Kids this year? Well, anyway, it was an outstanding event, and can't wait for next year. So great job.
Thank
you, George.
Okay, I finished up those 5 classes from CSBA, and one of those classes was on policies, and I was looking through our policies as part of the class, and I come upon a policy that says, hey, if the board sends you to training, you got to write a report out about it and tell everyone. So
well, in this instance, we'll violate.
I'll be doing that shortly, so you guys can expect some feedback on that. One of the other things that we talked about at CSBA, one of the things that we're hitting hard is this whole idea of adequacy. And it's really kind of strange because, the governor is pushing us right now. Big deal. We're going to get to full funding, maybe next year, because there's some one-time money. So there's an idea that he's going to take that money and bring us up to full funding. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means the 2008 level adjusted for inflation. Now, does it take into account the increase in the STRS and PERS contributions? No, it does not. So when we're finished, when he gets us up to full level, we can all say hallelujah, because we will be number 50th in the nation in funding. Now you say, well, we're on the bottom. No, there are actually 51 because they include the District of Columbia in that as well. So there is one state that's worse than us. It's terrible. There is, and nothing looks like it's going to change unless a grassroots effort helps change that. And to that end, CSBA is adding some people. We're going to have our own grassroots expert here that's going to help us start pushing this whole idea of adequacy. And that is certainly something that CSBA and CTA can work together on, getting more money. RBED, thank you. We've got your nominations. That's fantastic. You've got our nominations. I think everything has been approved now. We have an RBED. Holy cow. That's fantastic. Michelle, on the PD, I agree with you. I think that we were trying to get something out there now, and that thing can be changed. Okay, because these licenses are only
This year.
they're only 1 year. So it's just get something into place right now that we can kind of play with. But RBED is that's part of the RBED. That's what we talked about, is to do the PD. So it's something for now until we get. I don't think the RBED meets until, when is our first meeting?
We're working on that.
Let me know about that. All right. Went to the spelling bee out at Lawrence. Oh my God. I have a reason they invented spell check. I tell you what. Those kids, they'd ask them, they give them a word, and then the child would spell it, and I'm like, oh, that's right, and they're wrong. Oh, jeez. And they are so far advanced on that. You guys can be proud of your superintendent. I went out and observed her do a My Book presentation to a group of parents, a group of kids, and it was fantastic. She did a wonderful job and has allowed me to participate in the next one on that. I greatly appreciate that. Sub problem, you know, we got to keep working on it. It's just tough. It really is. We got to keep working on that. You know, this whole thing about if somebody calls in sick, they're sick, period. That's not to be questioned. You know, they're sick. I am a little bit concerned about this whole Houston-Joe Cerna thing. I think there was a real communication problem on that. Because I got parents up here yelling at me, and I can't say anything to them because it's not on the agenda. I can't explain to them where we're at, and we're just not handling this very well. And I think we need to do something about that. And one more thing on our funding issues. We talked about free and reduced lunch. I don't know if we fully identify our free and reduced lunch. I mean, are there people out there who aren't applying for it for any number of reasons? Because each student to us right now represents how much money? I mean,
10,000.
So the free and reduced, they probably add about close to 2,000 if they're free and reduced, right?
Could we use supplemental money or?
Supplemental and concentration.
20% and 50%.
Yeah, if we're 1% off on that, that's about 150, so it starts to end up being quite a bit of money. I think we need to really try to concentrate on identifying, and the kids get free lunch out of it, you know, we get more money, everything is good. So if we could do that, that would be fantastic, and that's all I've got.
Okay, Daryl, Joe, Bonnie? Okay, go ahead, please.
Really fast.
Oh, sure.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. You have a wonderful 5-day break coming up next week, so enjoy, relax, and hang out with family. Have a good time.
Great, thank you, and I will be brief also. I actually got this from a different source, not from Michelle, but it was the same thing about the professional development. I believe it was the PBIS training where, once again, there was a substitute shortage. And in at least a couple of instances that I do have heard about is that students are being farmed out to different rooms, to different grades, to whatever. My first thought is where in the world do these kids sit? And what in the world does that teacher teach them? So I think that's really very cumbersome. I think it is wrong, and we need to stop that practice, in my opinion. And to take it one step further, I think it's a little bit hypocritical when we're sitting here telling students that come to school, come to school, come to school. It's very important, but your teacher doesn't need to be there. I don't like that, and I think we should strive to eliminate that as best we can. Also coming up, we will be having a Got Kids crab feed on January 13th. So get your tickets now before they're all gone.
I sold a bunch of them. I put it on Facebook and about 10 of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had someone call me 3 weeks ago and go, hey, you know that crab feed we went to last year? He goes, when is that? And I looked quickly. So their group is coming back. I mean, it was really a lot of fun. Okay, so this one I think is for Mr. Khan. The previous one-time money, I believe was the 14 million one. If you could, please, I would like a rundown on the projects that that money went to and what the status of those monies are. Is it all gone? Is it still encumbered for a succession of things? So just kind of a, give me a little rundown on what the items were, how much was allocated, and how we're doing basically just, in progress or completed, that kind of thing.
December meeting, we'll have that.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. And it could be at the meeting, it could also be at just an email also.
That's fine.
Whichever, I'm happy with. Mr. McKilligan, as an example, on the consent calendar, A10 was about approving some more PIPs. So it seems like we're getting a lot of those. And I know last year you gave us a sheet basically of vacancies and how they were filled. And there were PIPs and STIPs and all that other stuff. And it's really kind of lets me know, I guess, how we're doing on recruitment. And it does highlight the fact that yes, there is a teacher shortage, and it's not like anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just, how are we doing attracting good teachers for our students? So I'd like that information also. And that is it for me. Oh, one more thing, I'm sorry. If in fact we are calling people who call in sick, in my opinion, don't do that anymore. Anyone else? Very good. That is all for board members. Superintendent, anything else?
Just a couple things quickly, Mr. Heverly, members of the board. Just want to let you know that today, Lisa, Elodia, Edith, and I went to a Future Ready event training in Sacramento. There were districts from all over the state and other states as well. This is a national effort that was started through the Obama administration, talking about how to prepare students for the future and getting the schools in line with preparing students for what they need to be in the future. And one of the things I learned while interacting with other folks who were there is that we are far ahead of many, many places in terms of technology. Not many folks that I talked to were at 1-to-1. And in fact, they were not close to 1-to-1, even though that was a goal. So I know that it's easy for us to focus on, the concerns and the issues, and, we know we have a lot to work on in that area, but I hope that you're very proud of what you have done for the children in this community by providing that level of resource to all children, because that is not common in other districts. So I want to acknowledge that. I also want to make one comment about the Edivate, the online professional development, and just remind folks that the purpose of this isn't just for administrators and teachers. This is also for classified staff, the paraprofessionals, bus drivers, cafeteria folks, school support personnel, campus monitors. The resources that are available and potentially available with this kind of system can impact all employees. So I just want to put that in perspective. And again, this is not a thing that we have committed to long term. We want to try some things out to see if this is something we're interested in, but this has the potential to be available and valuable to all staff.
Great, thank you. All right, we are on report items. Mr. Khan, policies.
These are a portion of the current CSBA list. Generally speaking, all the suggestions made by CSBA attorneys have been accepted by our directors in business services.
Okay, any questions on those policies? No questions. What did you say?
No questions.
No questions. Okay, very good. Audience, questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Khan, and we will look forward to having them come back. I'm assuming in December. So, okay, very good. All right, next up, Lisa Katowski. This would be on LCAP. Mr. Khan, you need to learn how to stretch these out. You're doing
like
great.
our shorts.
You're doing great.
Yes, our squeaky wheels today, huh? President Heberly, members of the board, and Dr. Washer, Ms. Fierro and I are here today to give you an update of the actions that we've taken with our the local accountability plan and the meetings that we've had. Josie and I are going to kind of bounce back and forth between the slides as we go forward. It's a long presentation. I'm sorry about that. It's about keeping you informed of what we shared with our LCAP committees and our collective bargaining units as we've been meeting with them. We're trying to give you the overall picture about everything that we've shared and bring to you for information. So,
President Heberly, members of the board, Dr. Washer, here before you, you see some of the meetings that we have already conducted and some of the meetings that are coming up. We have been working on updating and getting input from the committees, from the supervisors, LPPA, so on and so forth, and then we have some future meetings coming up where we will continue to present survey results, some of the current data that is available at the time of the meeting, and also gaining input. So here you see from the September 18th LCAP committee meeting, you see the agenda. It was primarily the survey results and then gaining input from the committee members. The top 5 items that came up, and they're not in any particular order, the main ones that came up were the cleanliness, safety, college and career, parent involvement, and additional staff. You can see how many people attended and the breakdown as far as parents, staff and parents, as well as just staff. The next meeting was October 19th. These were the supervisors. Some of the top 3 things that they talked about was professional development for staff. And this included their own particular staff. So IT, for example, their employees, when can they train them if they are working year-round? There were several questions that came up as far as the professional development. Safety measures was another one. And then parent communication, things that are going well and things that we can continue to work on. The next meeting that we had was October 25th. October 25th, it's okay. This one was at Washington School, and we had all 4 groups there. And it was very nice that each group got together and gave us their group response. Primarily it was, we need more staff for each of these groups. Psychologists need to be fully staffed. Nurses would like to focus more on preventive care if there was more staff. And then, of course, the speech therapists and counselors as well.
And I'd like to say that they also provided us some articles and information to support their input, articles providing how helpful that school nurses could be, or psychologists, counselors, to help with the priorities of the LCAP. Those articles are available in my office. There were just a lot of them, and I didn't really want to overload already overloaded document. But if you'd like to see them, I can make copies and send them to you.
Then on November 6th was another LCAP committee meeting, and this is where the evaluation data came in. Lisa went through all of the evaluation slides that we have, and you will see them tonight. And then we gained input from the committee members. So she'll go over that with you right now.
So this, at each meeting, we give you an update on any data that we have received. As the data comes in, it comes in bits and pieces from the state. They release certain data points, and other data points come in later. So right now, we're going back and we're looking at our section 2.0, which is all target students, including all students, including target students, will demonstrate proficiency in math, literacy, and technology. And you can see if we met the goal, it's in green. If we didn't meet the goal, but we made progress towards the goal, it's in brown. and we didn't meet the goal and we declined. It's in red. So at the far my right, your left, I guess, where it talks about all students, you can see that we met the goal. We did increase the proficiency of all students meeting or exceeding proficiency in ELA by 2%, so we did meet that goal for our LCAP. Our English learners had an increase in, we're supposed to have an increase in meeting proficiency greater than all other students. We actually didn't have an increase. We had a decrease of 3.6%. And the reason that we had that, or what we think is the reason that we had that, is we reclassified a very large number of our English learner students from being identified as English learners to being RFIP, Redesignated Fluent. When we do that, we remove them from the English learner, so we took the top students off of that English learner group and moved them into the other group. So then those that are left are not our best students. They're struggling students because they didn't meet the reclassification. They're still 1s, 2s, and 3s. Okay, so that's why we didn't meet that goal. But you can see our low-income students, which our ELs tend to fall into also. We didn't meet the target, but we did increase. To be able to say that we met the target was to have a greater than 2% increase for our low-income students, and we had a 1.8%. Because our goal was to say it would be better than all students. So we are making some growth. It's not rocketing up to the top, but we are growing. In mathematics, you'll see the same thing. All of our students, we met our growth for all students in mathematics. We had a 1.7% increase in the students meeting proficiency in mathematics. The same thing happened with our English learners. We declined by 2.5% for the same purpose, that they are no longer ELs, they have moved to be fluent. And our low-income students did grow, but didn't meet their targets that we had set to grow greater than the 1.7%, and it was only a 1.0%. So we did grow in mathematics also. In this case, we're looking at science. You know, we're going to have a new science test. We're going to pilot that science test this coming year. It's called the CAST, California Science Test, C-A-S-T. Isn't that ingenious? Okay, sorry about that's my statement. We met our goal in science. We did increase. We increased the percentage of student meeting proficiency. Our English learners went down, and our low-income students went down. It's going to be interesting as we have a new test. We won't be able to have any comparison data then until 2018, as next year's data will not, they'll be measuring two separate measurements, two separate actions. So then one of the other things that we could talk about is the early acceptance program. We did increase, our goal was to have an increase in students being ready for English language arts or mathematics, and for English language arts we had an increase of 28% of our students being ready for early entrance, early acceptance. So overall, that's was our goal when we met our goal. For mathematics, we met the same goal. We had an increase of 58% in early students ready for mathematics. And we also had a goal that Lodi will have positive and supportive learning environments. We were supposed to decrease the suspension rates by 1%. We didn't make a full 1%. It was 0.10%, 0.10. I'm not the math teacher here, but we did meet it. We declined and not meeting that goal for decreasing our suspension rates. Our expulsion rates, we did meet our maintaining our expulsion rate at 2% or lower, and so it was at 0.2%. Okay, so now it's been a while since we came to you, so we've had 2 LCAP meetings and 2 other meetings, DLAC meetings. So now we're at November 6th, which was just last Monday, I believe, where we met with our LCAP committees, and we went through that data that we just talked to you, and we asked them to provide us some, what they thought was positive about the data, what they thought were some concerns, and what were some solutions. So the common thread of that, the discussion of the data were that we should really think about our homeless students. We should really think about our after-school programs. We seem to have pockets where not enough students are being served, or schools don't have after-school. And we should probably look at the data a little bit more disaggregated by cohort and subgroups, meaning ethnicity and that thing. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but we did put on all these next 3 slides, all the comments that came from the LCAP committee, the positive things about what groups that were there said, concerns, which are a lot, and then solutions. And I left them there for people to look at because they're kind of like all over the board. There wasn't a common thread except for the 3 that we came up with. So just wanted to be able to share everything that was provided to us, and we'll share that. Then the very Wednesday night, we met with our EL committee meeting. We had to do, and so we asked to be postponed to this meeting. So we shared our survey results and our evaluation data. And the common threads that came up from our EL committee was safety issues and cleanliness of our facilities. And so we did the same activity with this group. We talked about what was positive about what they saw, what were some concerns, and solutions. And so everything that they shared with us, we have shared with you. It ranges across the board. Our next step is that on November the 28th, we're going to, actually I believe next week, we're going to meet and plan November the 28th, but we're going to meet with CSEA and their staff and, not their staff, their group, and do a presentation on LCAP, however they would like to present that. It could be a co-presentation, or our discussions still have to be held about that. We are planning 2 forums, like we did last year. One that will be in January the 23rd in Stockton and the 25th in Lodi. And then we have 2 more EL committees, 2 more meetings at each of the committees. Of course, in there somewhere, we will probably do another update to the board about what we're finding and what people are sharing with us. So here we are with questions, comments.
Board members, questions?
Dr. Washington, we have a study session coming up on this. When is that?
We were after January, when it gets closer to after we've gotten the input, we will need to have a study session with you to get your thoughts and direction about how to take all that input and your concerns and issues and formulating the LCAP document. So
Are you looking in right after the community forums in January or after the...
It'll be after January, so maybe February, March-ish. Yes.
Okay.
Because there's 2 in January, 2 in February. So
Correct. It would have to be after the community forum, and then sharing out that information with them. And I just like to go back to what Mr. Neely said, because this is reality. I mean, the governor has been very, we're going to fully fund you. Yeah, we'll fully fund. I'm sorry, this is my personal comment, and I probably shouldn't do this, but that's 2008-9 levels. It's not 2017 levels. And so, everybody needs to realize that what fully fund really is 10 years ago almost now. Sorry about that, personally.
you're right. That's not a personal comment, that's the truth. That's just the facts. Just facts.
It's a frustration point, I think, for a lot of people.
That's politics versus reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like your explanation about the ELs, because that was a concern. That makes sense to me.
Yep.
that we have some students who are just not that fluent yet, and so those are the ones we're testing. I did want to tell you, I got a complaint from, not complaint, a comment from a teacher that they were being asked to give the EL test again to students, that they just, and kind of trying to get them moved up is what he got out of it, you know. And I'm wondering if that's because of that color coding thing. You know, progress is one of the things that we're, EL progress is one of the things that we're great about. I just want to make sure that we're not doing that, you know, that we're not trying to push them.
I think what the teacher is referring to is, as the CELT leaves and the LPAC comes in, we have a window of opportunity to make sure that all the students that meet the reclassification through the CELT process get reclassified. As the LPAC comes in, then we'll have a whole different reclassification process based on the LPAC results of students. So we have a window from now until,
Yeah,
I'm not
that makes
specific.
sense.
So-
Are we rated, I guess, on how many ELs we get out of these?
Yes, the that will
So
also,
if
that's
you
one
do
of our
that,
data
you're
points
supposed-
that we'll be sharing at our next meeting when we do the whole student achievement data report in December.
Then you lose money too.
Yeah, I know.
They're no longer.
They're no longer.
There's most of them though fall into the socioeconomic
Free
category,
ranges, yeah.
and since they're unduplicated, we can only count them once anyway.
That makes sense.
To follow that through, one of the things that we notice when we do student discipline cases, a lot of times we notice what kind of classes they're in and the GPA they get. And I want to make sure that they're being supported all the way through once they exit the EL. And,
It's a requirement.
oh, okay, and that we're not, you're going to be in a CP class when they don't have the skills to succeed there. So we have to not coddle them, but we have to let them taste success at their level. That's all I'm saying. Right. Any other questions? Public comment? Come on, this one, wait. Oh, hi. You better start jumping up faster than that.
I know.
I want to move here.
Front seat.
I've heard from members, we had events taking place, and we've talked about the Lodi calendar and all that before, but from members that attended the October, they were pleased to see the discussions that were taking place. Oh my gosh, I need to look at the calendar again as to the recent one that was at Lincoln Tech, and the facilitating of the discussions, the concerns, solutions.
November 6th.
Thank you. The dates are all blurred together. We appreciate that open forum, and we saw and heard from parents that we hadn't seen before and appreciated that. We'd like again to see what we can do to facilitate, if it's someone from our Apple Academy at Lodi High to do babysitting during that time. We saw little ones in the audience again, and you know, parents are really trying hard to participate and entertain, and you know, we had the room right next door, so maybe if we could enlist them. We talked about it last year about having some kind of daycare, and it was nice to have the tables and to write on, and big chart paper to write stuff out. So we liked the changes that we saw and heard at those two forums, and we look towards communicating more.
Great, thank you. Any other public comment? All right, ladies, thank you for your report. Appreciate it. And Ms. Katowski, don't move. You're up again.
Thank you, I was gonna leave.
Yeah.
This is gonna be really short. Yeah, that was kind of like setting it up. So this is, we received our annual report from the county on October 26th, and I believe attached to this board item is the full letter from the county superintendent and all the supporting documents that go along with this report. But we're sharing with you the annual results of the Williams visits and Williams information. So first off, as stated in his document, the letter, the purpose of the visits, there are about 6 purposes, or 5 purposes if I count my dots correctly up there. First, we want to determine if the students have sufficient standard-aligned instructional materials, determine if there are any facilities that pose an emergency or urgent threat to the health and safety of pupils or staff, determine if the school accountability report cards, SARCs, are up to date and are sufficient, determine whether or not our teachers are assigned appropriately or if we have vacancies, and then to receive a report whether or not we have uniform complaints. So that's over the course of this visit and last year, you'll see the results of what we talked about. So I wanted to talk about what the definition of sufficiencies of textbooks or instructional materials. It means that each pupil, including the English language learners, have a standards-aligned textbooks or materials to use in the classroom and to be able to take home. School facilities that if you can poses an emergency or urgent threat is a condition that is threatening to the health and safety of the pupils or the staff at the school. And good repair means that the facilities are clean and safe and functional. You'll notice in the full letter there were lots of comments about facilities, but none of them pose a threat or an emergency except for one, which was repaired. I think it's an air conditioning in some cafeteria at one school site. So in the instructional materials, like a week and a half after we start school, they come down and they visit all of these school sites. So between August the 7th through August the 10th or 11th, they visit a number of school sites and the number of classrooms at those school sites. And we found that all the students have the instructional materials needed based on that determination of those site visits. So our instructional materials are fine. And this one, it says facilities findings. Well, the first column here is the school accountability report cards as of February 22nd. Last year, they reviewed our SARCs and said that there was no findings on our SARCs. Our SARCs were fine. Our instructional materials had no discrepancies, and our facilities had no discrepancies. This one caused me a little bit of heartache because I didn't read very carefully. So this is where reading carefully for details is important. I didn't read that it was 16-17. I read 17-18, and I was saying, oh my gosh, we have all of these assigned teachers. But we don't really have. That was for last year, 16-17. All of those teachers were teachers that were basically music teachers. They were substitutes. We had 5 substitute music teachers last year since we couldn't fill in our elementary classroom music. And they were identified as not being appropriately or being misassigned. And then because they teach more than one class, every class that those teachers taught is considered a class of students. So you can see that there's some there that say, oh my gosh, that teacher, there are 8 teachers at that school site that don't have the appropriate authorization. It really means that one music teacher taught 8 classes at the same time, over the course of the day. So we don't have that many teachers that do not contain the correct authorization to teach English learners, because we worked on that last year to get everybody assigned. So it's a personal thing for me. And that's it. So that's our report from the county. And if you have questions about facilities, you can talk to Mr. Kahn. Mr. Kahn will answer those questions.
Thank you. Board members, questions, comments?
Thank you, Lisa.
And public? Okay, thank you, Lisa, appreciate it. And Mr. Kahn, you're up next.
Thank you, President Heberly, members of the board, Dr. Washer. It's been my pleasure to serve along with Mr. Neely on the Everyone Access Subcommittee to the Technical Advisory Committee. This subcommittee was formed to actually look into the probability and potential of rolling out a one-to-one take-home device. We've heard One-to-World. I like Sonia's brainchild, One-to-Wow. But in this committee, we discuss the logistical side of it and other aspects of providing each student in the grade levels that Ms. Holbert is about to present to you, a device to check out and take home. I'd like to thank Ms. Holbert, our Director of IT, for proctoring these meetings, and without further ado, I'll let her present.
Thank you, Mr. Gunn. President Hibberly, members of the board, and Dr. Washer, it is my privilege tonight to provide you with a discussion summary from the Student Device Subcommittee on the Superintendent's Technology Advisory Committee. Before diving into the subcommittee's discussion, I'd like to go over some details about our current Chromebook inventory. And let's see if I can get to the next slide. There we go. Okay. So at the beginning of the month, our current device Chromebook inventory for students is 37,322 devices across all of our school sites. On any typical school day, over 25,000 of these devices are used by our students for accessing resources like Google G Suite, Read 180, Scholastic, Rosetta Stone, Fleet Central, Study Sync, just to name a few. During our initial deployment of student devices, our allocation was basically a Chromebook charging cart with 25 Chromebooks at the K-6 level, and at the 7-12 level to our core classes, it's a Chromebook cart with 36 devices. Now in the materials, you'll find a site allocation of Chromebooks, and basically that lists the number of Chromebooks assigned to each school site and the number of students, and then in the final column you'll see the number of excess Chromebooks at each location. And that excess of Chromebooks, that's really what is driving part of our conversation, because if you take a look at our current deployment model and an average of about $205 per device, you can see that the cost of how we've deployed our Chromebooks is steadily increasing. So what our committee is discussing is basically what a program would look like, what we would recommend a program for issuing Chromebooks to each of our students at the 7 to 12th level. So we're basically looking at taking a device like this, Chromebook, issuing it to all of our 7th to 12th grade students, has a hard clamshell case to combat what I think Michelle calls the Cheetos syndrome, when you put a bag of Cheetos in the backpack and then toss the backpack and voila, you have Cheetos coming out. We don't want Chromebook parts coming out. We've also discussed the option for K-6 students to check out Chromebooks as needed. Also issuing earbuds to all students at the start of every school year, and the formation of a device insurance program that parents could take advantage of to protect against any accidental damage or whatnot for a Chromebook. And that's the summary of what we've been discussing to this point. Questions?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I suggested that we bring this to the board, that the committee does, because we're getting ready to get down into the nitty-gritty details of things. What is the package going to, how much are the costs going to be? We're going to develop an insurance program, that people can pay into. So all the details are getting ready to go now. But before we got into that, I wanted to make sure that the board is okay with the concept of kids taking these things home. The way it'll work, what we're kind of looking at right now, is that these devices, they have a 4-year lifespan. That's how long Google's going to support them, for 4 years. So the idea is for you have a set of Chromebooks and go 7-8, and then those stay there at the school and go 7-8 again. And then in 9th grade, they get a Chromebook, and that takes them, they keep that same Chromebook all the way till they're graduating. Now, we're also looking at a way for them to be able to buy that Chromebook out at a greatly reduced price, since it's at the end of its lifespan for us and we can't use it anymore. So they could be leaving high school with a Chromebook at a very reasonable price. One of the reasons that we have more Chromebooks now than students is because if you look at a classroom, and Mr. Kahn brought this up, and it was a great example, if a teacher's got 20 students one period, and 25 another, and 30 in another, and 35 in another, and 40 in another, how many Chromebooks do you have to put in that classroom? 40, for everybody to have one. So this is a way to get the Chromebooks in the hands of the kids. They can actually take them home. We're looking at ways to provide internet access for those, free and reduced lunch, for people who just can't afford it. We've got some innovative ways. Edith is, you were talking about one from Sprint, right, was it? They have decided they're going to hand out a million hotspots or something like that.
They call it the 1 to Million program for
Yeah.
students. We'd have to apply for it and then be accepted.
So there's ways that we can do this, but this is the next step, and moving in that digital direction so that they can go home. And let me tell you one of the greatest things about being digital and taking the computer home. You can't say you forgot your homework, all right? Because it's on the cloud. So even if you left your laptop at home, you go to the library, check one out for the day, and your homework is there, or it's not there, one or the other. So there's some real advantages to this program. So anyway, I suggest we bring this to the board, and I'm just looking for anybody who's got any serious objections to it, or if 4 people can say, go for it.
Just a question. A student takes a Chromebook home and some way, shape, or form drops it and destroys it or breaks it or whatever, and it doesn't work anymore. Would that student be responsible for paying for it or replacing it as in the old days with textbook?
That's correct, Dr. Talk, and it would be the same as abating a textbook. The parents would get a bill of sorts.
And in this particular situation, parents would then need to be aware of that Chromebook would cost them $200 if it's damaged.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine.
It is.
Possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I forget who it was that brought it up, but that we do have students making Chromebook repairs right now.
Yes, at middle school.
Right, and so the idea is to kind of, actually, maybe if we do it at the high schools, if we get that many that they start doing it there at the high schools. You know, so if you have a problem like you're talking about, you can replace a screen on these things. You can replace a keyboard. Although at $205, you know, it's hardly worth it. But I think the screen's about $100 on it, isn't it? Something like that. But anyway, we can do things like that.
You know, it sounds like the things that I'm kind of interested in, you haven't officially kind of discussed yet. And that's kind of more of the nuts and bolts and the operational stuff of it. So I guess I'll wait on those. But what is the startup cost and the ongoing cost?
Right now, we would issue inventory that we currently have. The 37,000 devices that we have now, we would issue those to students. And the goal or the hope would be the start of next school year. The cost, we would need to basically buy the cases for each of them and issue new earbuds for students. And I can put those numbers together.
Okay. Is this mandatory that, no, you will be assigned a computer or Chromebook? Or is it, yeah, I think I'd like one, and then you kind of sign up for it and you get one issued to you? How does that all work?
The way we see it is it's kind of like a textbook. You don't have an option whether you get we're gonna handle these a lot, that's the concept right now. That's not to say that that won't change as we get further into this. The concept is you handle it a lot like you do a textbook. Check it out at the beginning of the year, turn it in at the end of the year.
Okay. And let's face it, the kids who use the textbook will use the textbook, and the kids who put them in their lockers are going to keep them in their lockers.
Probably so. As long as they're not damaged.
And as long as they don't damage them, who cares, you know? And that's
If they've got one at home.
that's all that kind of thing I'm
Yeah.
talking about. One of the tech committee meetings that was, oh man, at least a year ago, when this came up, they were talking about school districts where it was successful, and they also, some people mentioned some districts where it went really badly. And all I'm thinking about is, well, are we going to look at what went wrong and what went right, and we can kind of make a hybrid so that it works for us? So is that that's part of your committee then? That's going to be up there? That's why I want to bring it forward, is if that wasn't brought forward in the meetings, I'd like to make sure that we do learn from people's mistakes and what they did right.
I think the purpose of the Everyone Access Committee was to bring forward to the Tech Advisory Committee the logistical side, the issues related with distributing them, then collecting them and redistributing them annually. I think when it gets to the Tech Advisory Committee, maybe the curriculum and instructional side of it starts entering the dialogue as well. So.
And we have members of that committee travel to Ceres to talk to them about their program, which is very successful, and the changes that they've gone through over the couple years that they've done that. We have spoken with many other districts regarding their student one-to-one programs. One of the hopes of the subcommittee is to basically formulate, okay, here's all of the challenges that we see. You know, who's going to issue them out? How are we going, when are we going to, check them back in? All the logistical stuff. Take all of those questions and come up with recommendations on how to address them. What if the student brings the device in and it's not charged? What do they do in the classroom? If they left it at home, what are they going to do? Basically, recommendations to answer all of those questions. And we're working on formulating those now.
And that's great, because I'm an operational person, and when you're talking to logistical, how this are all going to come together and work, that's what's interests me. I don't want to go through a program and then make a lot of investment in time and money and then go fit. So yeah, I'm glad you're talking about that. I think that's great.
Spend a lot of time talking about that, but like I said, before we spent a lot of time doing this, I wanted to make sure that people are okay with it, the board's okay with it, and could back this. I gotta say, one other advantage that you're gonna get out of this too is in our EL development, both for kids and for families, that they can learn English language off of a website with our Chromebooks. So parents who are too busy at times to come to school to participate in some of these programs can actually do it at home.
One of the things that also concerns me, and it's kind of the safety of our students. I spent a career being exposed to the other side of society, and I don't want them to see little targets walking home with electronic devices in their backpacks. I don't have a clue how you get away from that, but it's just, I've seen enough things that it worries me. And like I said, I don't think that's anything that this committee can deal with. It's just a concern.
Well, one of the things is that those devices don't do anything but go to our network.
And that's why I was happy to say you're going, oh, they're $200, is that what you said? $210 or whatever? I'm thinking, well, there's not a big market for that out there. So I'm thinking, okay, that might solve that problem. Any other questions, board members? Yeah.
How much would maybe 2 textbooks cost?
Well,
How much?
Textbooks now can be up to $100.
if
right?
it's
Textbooks.
science,
Take the place of all
Chemistry
textbooks.
books.
if it's science, that's at least 250, 280.
Yeah, so this take place of all the textbooks, so that's pretty cheap.
I did pose that question to Gabby. She's the instructional media supervisor. She said an average load for a student is about $250 worth of textbooks.
I would, what I would like to know more specifically, because I think it's fine, like from a district like Ceres, is how do they encourage the kids to, because they would be going back and forth daily then. It's not like, yeah, okay, so do they have incentive programs or something to just convince the kids that you really do have to take care of this?
I don't recall any specific incentive plan. I think the device in itself was incentive enough from what we hear.
Just the thought of them having their own.
Yes.
Okay.
I recall from Siri's presentation where they have students sitting on their front lawn, 3 students sitting there with their Chromebooks,
Okay.
just out in the front yard.
That's heartening to know that. Yeah.
Ms. Casa, as you were speaking, I see Martha had her hand up, so let's open it up, yeah. Good evening, Martha.
Good evening, Mr. Heberly, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. I was one of the teachers that did go to Ceres and see their presentation along with Sonia Reynolds. And to answer your question, Ms. Castle, and to the rest of the board as well, Ceres was very involved in having a full community buy-in. They went to great lengths to make sure all their stakeholders were well aware we are changing how we do business. They had their high school students develop public service announcements. Hey, kids, this is what we're going to get. Hey, look what's going to be in the bag. And they also had training for the students, for the parents, and it was an ongoing thing. So as we're looking at a subcommittee right now, is we're making the plan for how we set this up to get that buy-in to say, this is what Lodi Unified is going to do. So it's, as we look at 712, so we'd be looking to get our high school students to make those videos, and also the aspect of training that's already been discussed that, hey, if something goes down, even having like a student support desk, that something goes wrong, this is kids helping kids as much, and staff have to be trained as well. So all of those things were in the series presentation, and Edith saw something from Nevada, so we've looked at that. But there's a lot of districts that are being very successful with one-to-one out there.
Anyone else from the public? All right. Anything else, Edith?
That's it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Khan, anything? No? Okay, very good. We are now at Board Advisory Committee reports. Are there any? I hear none. Future agenda items? I hear none. We will not be going back into closed session, and I hear somebody wants to adjourn, and I think it's unanimous. Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned. Not bad. Yeah. You know, I'm gonna catch it for this.
I want to talk about the okay.
We'll set up a meeting. I'd like to explain some of the issues in the face.
We're going to be at the Boys and Girls Club. Bigger and better. So I have all these little shoes of the
You can't wear those high shoes.
Yeah, I'd like to actually sit down. All it was is.
This isn't gonna work for me.
Just
Splash, look at him. He's got his Disney tie on, his tie clip on. Oh, look at that.
Get the full funding of the last education.
She was supposed to do this until December. Uh-oh. Is everything okay? Yeah, I think so.
This increase in transportation takes away some of the.
He's like, when the baby get it drops, then you say, you should leave town.
Yeah, so they're doing this.
That's what they said. So, yeah, that's what it is, and I knew you would kind of.
I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, okay. This Thursday too? This Thursday too. Right, here. Got it, okay.
Oh, you bet. Good to see you. Yeah, good luck. There you go.
It's favorite place.
It's usually